Japan is on the brink of annihilation. Will Sung Jinwoo and the Ajin Guild rise in time to save the nation? Could even the Shadow Monarch survive a giant powerful enough to wipe out his army in a single strike? And who is this mysterious chain man? And what is his connection to Jinwoo? All these questions will be answered. So sit back and enjoy the video. The chapter opens in a hospital room where Jinwoo and Jinho are in conversation. With a heavy heart, Jinho informs Jinwoo that the raid in Japan has ended in failure. Upon hearing the news, Jinwoo's expression also reflects sadness and concern. The scene shifts to the office of Jinho's father, Mr. Yu, who has just woken up and is holding his head, still groggy. He asks his secretary how long he had been asleep, to which the secretary replies, 23 hours and 46 minutes. The secretary adds that, following his previous instructions, he had been prepared to take him to the hospital if he didn't wake up after 24 hours. Then, the secretary slides a folder across the desk, explaining that there are two important developments he needs to report. The first piece of news stuns Mr. Yu. A patient has awakened from what was believed to be an eternal slumber. When asked to confirm, the secretary reveals that the person who woke up was Sung Jinwoo's mother. Mr. Yu is taken aback and begins to realize that Jinwoo must have the power to cure that incurable illness. Curious, he asks what the second development is. The secretary replies that Mr. Yu has a visitor and opens the door. A woman with short hair enters and immediately asks, "How long have you known?" The story then shifts back to Japan, where chaos has erupted. The hunter Yuri Orlov is grabbed by a giant monster and dropped into its mouth. Caught off guard by the sheer strength of the creature, Yuri screams in fear and disbelief. The giant proceeds to chomp down, devouring him completely. Meanwhile, on the front lines, tanks relentlessly fire at the giants emerging from the gate. Explosions hit the monsters in various parts of their bodies, while an attack helicopter from above rains down additional firepower. Despite the intensity of the assault, the weapons appear to be ineffective. Watching from a distance, Reiji remarks that conventional weapons won't work against magical beasts. He decides to enter the battle and orders his fellow hunters to engage. Hunters Tawada and Hoshino leap toward one of the giant's heads. Tawada thinks she can gouge out the giant's eyes to prevent it from reading their movements. But just before they strike, the giant's eyes flash, signaling that it has detected them. It unleashes a blindingly fast slash. Though the two hunters manage to dodge it, Tawada is shocked by how fast the giant moved despite its massive size. She silently admits that this beast is insanely powerful. Next, a helicopter is shown flying over Tokyo, broadcasting the devastation below. The reporter states that even from a distance, the city appears to be in ruins. The scene then cuts to Jinwoo, watching the live news broadcast. The reporter describes the situation as something that looks like hell on earth, and says that the entire country is closely monitoring the hunters' efforts to stop the catastrophe. Jinwoo reflects that the situation is beginning to resemble the Jeju Island raid, only worse. At this rate, all of Asia might be in danger. He knows he needs to act quickly. Suddenly, a voice interrupts him, telling him not to go. It's Gina, his younger sister, who had been listening from her room. She steps out, clearly aware that Jinwoo is thinking of joining the fight. Her face is filled with worry. Jinwoo asks what she means, and she replies that she knows he's planning to go to Japan. Her expression is sad. Jinwoo doesn't respond immediately, but then gently pats her head and says he's been overworked lately and plans to take a break. He tells her not to worry. The scene shifts to a quiet park, where Jinwoo is sitting alone on a bench. He calls out to his shadow soldier, Beru, who appears and addresses him as Your Majesty, before quickly correcting himself to My King. Jinwoo asks Beru if he's been watching period dramas again instead of keeping an eye on his sister, as he had instructed. Beru starts sweating and can't answer. Jinwoo says, "You're really obvious." He then asks how his sister is doing. Beru responds that Gina hasn't been doing much, mostly just sleeping. Jinwoo thinks to himself that she might still be traumatized by what happened at her school. After all, aside from his first raid 4 years ago, she had never tried to stop him from going out on raids. As Jinwoo walks, lost in thought about what to do next, a car suddenly stops in front of him, startling him. The next scene shows Mr. Yu and Jinwoo meeting in a private office. Jinwoo, puzzled, asks what business Mr. Yu has with him. Mr. Yu introduces himself formally as Yu Myung-han, chairman of Eugene Construction. He then slides a check across the table, surprising Jinwoo. He quickly clarifies that he's not some arrogant rich man trying to buy an S-rank hunter's favor. Instead, he asks Jinwoo to consider it a gesture of sincerity. Jinwoo understands immediately what they're about to discuss is not meant to leave the room. He also suspects that Mr. Yu is not trying to recruit him into a guild. So he directly asks, "What exactly are you trying to buy from me?" Mr. Yu hesitates, then admits that he is suffering from the same illness that once afflicted Jinwoo's mother. Jinwoo is shocked and asks if Jinho knows. Mr. Yu replies that, aside from his doctor, only his wife and secretary know. Jinwoo is the fourth person to be told. Mr. Yu explains that during his tireless search for a cure, he discovered that only one person has ever recovered from this mysterious illness, Jinwoo's mother. He doesn't believe this is a coincidence. All he wants, he says, is the truth. If Jinwoo helps him, he swears he will never forget his kindness. The chapter ends with Jinwoo reflecting that today feels like a day he is being forced to make a decision. The chapter begins in Japan, where the destruction caused by the dungeon break from the S-rank gate and the giants that emerged is evident. In the sky, a helicopter is seen reporting live on the unfolding events. Inside the helicopter are two individuals, a cameraman filming the ongoing chaos, commenting that what is happening is devastating, and a reporter stating that the beasts are destroying buildings and uprooting trees. It appears they are attempting to wipe out all traces of human existence, and to make matters worse, they are also consuming humans. Concerned, one of them asks if this means they might be also in trouble. The other reassures them, stating that based on the number of observational reports, they are safe as long as they are not the first to attack and stay out of reach. Meanwhile, two giant beasts are seen demolishing every building in their path. The reporter then mentions that their real problem is the largest giant they have seen, standing guard at the front of the gate, while the other giants have dispersed. One reporter wonders if it is guarding or waiting for something. The giant, holding a massive sword, stands directly in front of the gate. The cameraman offers a personal opinion, stating that he feels the giant is not alive. Despite breathing and moving, its movements appear robotic, as if programmed. The reporter responds, wishing that if that's the case, they might be able to shoot it down. Out of the 30 beasts that emerged from the gate, only 2 have been killed. He then asks how many days have passed since the break, to which the cameraman replies that it happened 2 days ago. They both wonder if the situation can be contained before all of Japan is razed to the ground, as a building is seen ablaze in the background. The scene shifts to the Ajin Guild office, where Jinwoo and Jinho are conversing. Jinho is surprised when Jinwoo mentions his intention to go to Japan. Concerned, Jinho asks if Jinwoo hasn't seen the news, pointing out that what's happening in Japan doesn't even compare to the Jeju Island incident. He adds that even he has never seen such massive magical beasts in his life. Jinwoo responds that if they succeed, people around the world will recognize their guild's name. Jinho hesitates, still worried. Jinwoo notices this and realizes that Jinho, usually confident in his decisions, is genuinely concerned this time due to the serious damage caused. Suddenly, Jinho decides that if that's the case, he will join Jinwoo. Jinwoo is taken aback, but listens as Jinho explains that during the Red Gate accident, the Jeju Island raid, and the recent double dungeon incident, the common factor was that he was nowhere to be seen. Jinho shows Jinwoo news reports about him, expressing that the only thing he's proud to show off is the fact that he was on his side. He admits it's embarrassing but acknowledges that Jinwoo gave him bragging rights. Jinwoo is stunned by his words, especially coming from the son of a business tycoon. Jinho firmly states that he will follow Jinwoo wherever he goes and pleads to be included. Jinwoo, still processing, asks why Jinho would want to go to Japan at a time like this. Jinho responds that he trusts him and believes they will be safe as long as he is safe. Jinwoo smiled faintly, clearly moved by Jinho's words. Rising from his seat, he headed toward the door and casually remarked that he had only been joking about going to Japan. He then turned to Jinho and told him he could head home for the day, praising him for his good work. Jinho, though visibly confused by the sudden change in tone, remained silent. The scene transitions to Jinwoo walking home, lost in thought as he reflects on the recent events. He remembers the double dungeon incident, how he had been unable to summon his shadow soldiers during the battle. Despite that, the architect had proven to be nearly as powerful as he was, even though Jinwoo had already surpassed level 100 at the time. This realization leads him to a sobering thought. There are likely many more powerful beings in the world, far beyond what he has encountered so far. He acknowledges that he's not the only one capable of handling the crisis in Japan. Upon arriving home, Jinwoo is greeted by his mother, who cheerfully asks if he has eaten dinner. Despite her warm welcome, Jinwoo's mind remains preoccupied with the decision he has to make. His mother has prepared a large meal, and when Jinwoo asks if his sister, Gina, will be joining them, she replies that Gina said she isn't hungry yet. The scene shifts to an earlier conversation between Jinwoo and Mr. Yu. Jinwoo apologizes, explaining that he can't help him, and slides the check back across the table. Mr. Yu, stammering, asks how Jinwoo's mother was able to make a full recovery. Jinwoo replies that if he had known of a cure and intended to profit from it, he wouldn't have kept it a secret all this time. As Jinwoo prepares to leave, Mr. Yu says he understands Jinwoo's position. Jinwoo bids him goodbye and walks out. In the elevator, Jinwoo sighs, leaning against the wall. He contemplates that since Mr. Yu is Jinho's father, he should have been honest with him. However, he also realizes that he doesn't know Mr. Yu well and can't be sure of his intentions. He wonders if Mr. Yu might be lying about his illness and acknowledges that the remaining holy water is limited and must be used wisely. Back in the present, Jinwoo eats his meal but remains deep in thought. He considers Mr. Yu's offer, but something about it doesn't convince him. He decides that if he must choose now, he will go to Japan. He calls out to his mother, telling her he needs to leave. His serious expression shows the gravity of his decision. He reflects that there are many people stronger than him, but as long as he's capable of leveling up, he needs to be on the battlefield to grow stronger. His mother, still with her back, responds that his father was the same, always leaving during meals when there was an emergency call about a fire. She then says she'll help him pack after dinner. The scene moves to Gina's room, where she overhears the conversation and pulls the blanket over her head, saddened by the news that Jinwoo is leaving. The door opens, and Jinwoo enters, asking if she's awake and if they can talk for a moment. Gina, still with her back to him, replies that she needs to sleep. Jinwoo sits on her bed, unsure how to begin. He tells her that she almost died recently, watching her closely for any reaction. Gina remains silent, prompting Jinwoo to quickly retract his earlier statement. He says that he's had his share of near-death experiences too, but that time, he genuinely thought he was going to die. He adds that it was an incredibly dangerous situation, yet he still managed to return alive. He expresses how grateful he is each time he makes it back home safely. Gently patting his sister's head, he assures her that this time, he'll definitely come back as well. He then thanks her for not asking him to stay despite everything. Tears well up in Gina's eyes as she listens to her brother. She sadly responds, "You wouldn't have listened anyway." As she speaks, a single tear rolls down her cheek. A shadow rises from Jinwoo's body. He assures her that no matter how far he goes, he will protect her. The scene shifts to Chairman Go at a press conference, surrounded by numerous reporters and cameras. Jinwoo walks to the center and announces that he will be going to Japan to assist with the dungeon break situation. Chairman Go shakes Jinwoo's hand as the flashes of cameras illuminate the room. The scene transitions to the airport, where Jinho is seen walking with a large bag filled with supplies, his serious expression indicating his readiness. People glance at him as he walks by. Soon after, Jinwoo appears, dressed in a black long-sleeve shirt, also prepared for their journey to Japan. In the background, numerous reporters and people eager to approach them can be seen. Jinho maintains his serious demeanor, while a confident grin appears on Jinwoo's face. The chapter concludes as agents from the Hunter Association make way for the Ajin Guild. Guild Master Sung Jinwoo and his vice, Guild Master Yu Jinho, walking toward the battlefield, ready to face the chaos awaiting them in Japan. The chapter opens in Japan, where soldiers are seen rescuing civilians in a hospital to keep them away from danger. A soldier speaks with an elderly couple, explaining that there is not enough space for more wounded patients. At most, they can only take 3 to 4 people. The old man protests, calling it absurd, pointing out that there are still 10 wounded individuals who can't even walk properly. The soldier tries to reason with him, saying that this is no time to worry about those who are likely to die soon, especially with the giants fast approaching. Staying behind would mean certain death. However, the old man firmly replies that they can't just abandon the wounded. They had made a promise to stay together until the very end. Moved by the couple's resolve, the soldier decides to stay behind as well, unable to leave civilians behind to die. With a smile, he instructs them to take cover. But before he can finish his sentence, the ground shakes with a deafening stomp. From behind a nearby building, enormous giants begin to emerge, their terrifying red eyes fixed directly on them. One of the giants has a human in its mouth, clamped between its massive teeth. Panic breaks out as the soldiers open fire on the approaching giant, but their bullets have no effect. The giant raises its hand, preparing to strike. At that moment, a trident flies through the air and impales the giant, sending it flying back with explosive force. The sheer power of the attack causes multiple shockwaves and explosions. The soldiers are stunned. When the dust settles, the giant is no longer standing. Out of the shadows steps Jima, one of Jinwoo's shadow soldiers, towering and imposing. The civilians stare in disbelief. One of the soldiers gasps, "What the hell?" as he stares at the enormous shadow. Jinwoo approaches and tells them they need to relocate, as they are too close to the hospital. Suddenly, a large boulder is falling toward the elderly couple. Jinho appears just in time, blocking it with a shield to protect them. He tells Jinwoo he'll stay behind to help with the evacuation. Jinwoo agrees. As Jinwoo turns to face the battlefield, a powerful aura bursts from his body. Holding a dagger in his left hand and his other hand in his pocket, he watches as Jima launches a lightning-fast stab that pierces the chest of another charging giant, toppling the beast and rendering it immobile as it crashes into nearby buildings. Jinwoo then dashes behind his shadow, leaps high into the air, and delivers a powerful slash across the giant's face, splitting it in two with devastating force. Meanwhile, in a building in Maryland, USA, a group of hunters are discussing the news about Sung Jinwoo heading to Japan. One of them mentions that according to sources, Ms. Selner didn't even upgrade Jinwoo by a single level. Another hunter mocks him, saying that means Jinwoo is bound to die. They note that all of them were upgraded by Ms. Selner, and thus understand the limits of ordinary hunters better than anyone. One of them wonders if Jinwoo is a reawakened hunter, while another laughs and says Jinwoo probably overestimated his abilities. He adds that beating the insectoid beasts is nothing compared to facing the giants, and that arrogant hunters always end up dying. He even jokes that Jinwoo's defeat of the ants only shortened his life. Another hunter bets his yacht that Jinwoo will die within a day. Someone else bets his house that he won't survive 2 days. But then, a hunter who had been eating suddenly speaks up, silencing the room. He says he's not so sure about their predictions, and bets the entire scavenger guild's building that Jinwoo will survive. That hunter is Thomas Andre, who smiles, his eyes glowing red. He then reminds them to focus on the S-rank gate that just spawned in their own backyard. He comments ominously that he doesn't know how many of them will still be alive after tomorrow's dungeon break. The others glare at him, some annoyed, others resigned to his mood-killing remarks. As Thomas gazes out the window, he mutters that Japan looks like a real party right now, but guesses that they'll be having their own party soon enough. The scene cuts back to Japan where intense battles continue to rage. Reporters in a helicopter are broadcasting live, astonished at what they're witnessing. The beasts summoned by Sung Jinwoo are taking down giants. The reporter announces to viewers at home that the giants, once feared, are now being eaten alive by a horde of insects. A young girl is seen running from a giant, its hand reaching out to grab her. As she turns back in terror, a swift streak of lightning and a slashing sound is heard. Igris, one of Jinwoo's shadows, has severed the giant's hand and holds the girl safely in his arms. Suddenly, from above the giant, another shadow, Iron, wielding a giant axe, strikes down with full force, creating a massive explosion and shockwave. Flying debris is deflected by Igris, shielding the child. As the dust settles, the girl peeks out. Igris looks visibly annoyed at Iron's reckless attack. Iron, however, smirks mischievously. Igris sighs and shakes his head before gently patting the child's head to ensure she's safe. From afar, Jinwoo watches the scene unfold and thinks to himself that Iron seems to be having the time of his life since his rank up. but at least he's doing a good job. A nearby soldier then approaches Jinwoo, bowing and thanking him for the rescue. Jinwoo gives a thumbs up and praises the soldier for his bravery, saying, "Nice work." The soldier, surprised by the compliment, thanks him again. Jinwoo then called out to Jinho, instructing him to help the soldier reach a safe location. Without hesitation, Jinho agreed and walked off with the soldier, leaving Jinwoo alone on the battlefield. With the chaos still raging in the distance, Jinwoo turned his gaze toward the lifeless body of a fallen giant. The air around him grew heavy with silence. His expression hardened as he took a step forward, eyes locked on the massive corpse. "It's time to get down to business," he muttered to himself. Then, Jinwoo spoke the word that echoed with power, "Arise." The chapter opens inside the Japanese Hunter Association headquarters, where the monitoring team relays good news. Nagoya has been successfully retaken. Another report soon follows. A giant corpse has been discovered in Nakatsugawa. One by one, more updates come in. Shizuoka, Takayama, and Nagano have all been reclaimed. Chairman Matsumoto Shigeo listens in stunned silence. Ruji's words echo in his mind, and it seems Ruji was right. The scene cuts to an earlier moment when Jinwoo first arrived in Japan. He recalls the look in Sung Jinwoo's eyes back at the airport. Throughout his life, he had encountered countless hunters, but none had ever radiated such overwhelming power. Not a single one came close. Reporters swarmed the airport in chaos. Chairman Matsumoto introduces himself and, clearly awestruck, apologizes for cutting straight to the point. He explains that Japan is in a state of emergency. Giants are currently marching toward Osaka. Through a translator, he requests that Jinwoo focus his efforts on defending that region. Internally, Matsumoto doubts that even Jinwoo could defeat all the giants. His real plan is to buy time. While Jinwoo fends them off, Japan will seek aid from other countries. But Jinwoo surprises everyone by bluntly rejecting the plan. A heavy silence falls. Cold sweat beads on the officials' faces as they process his words. "What's your plan then?" Matsumoto manages to ask. He wonders to himself, could it be that he plans to defeat all the giants on his own? The thought leaves Chairman Matsumoto in disbelief, because it turns out that was his original plan all along. Back in the present, Jinwoo looks over the giant shadows he's summoned. He decides to keep their names simple: number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. Beru suddenly arrives, reporting that another giant has been defeated. Jinwoo casually names the new shadow number 6. Jinwoo then decides to use Shadow Exchange to teleport to the locations of other giant corpses and convert them into soldiers. Before heading out, he tells Jinho to go rest for the night. Jinho, waiting inside the tent, agrees. In Jinwoo's mind, everything so far has been going too smoothly, but he knows the real battle is just beginning. Across Japan, Jinwoo's shadow soldiers assist the hunters in taking down giants. Tusk is shown spewing flames from his mouth, incinerating a giant, while hunters support the assault. Jinwoo notes how well attrition warfare works in his favor. Thanks to the mana supply his soldiers provide, he's barely using any of his own energy. And since his shadows regenerate upon defeat, the exhausted giants stand no chance. Elsewhere, Tank bites into a giant's torso, his claws buried deep in its shoulder, while another shadow bear clamps onto the giant's arm. Nearby hunters coordinate with the shadows, unleashing magical spells helping to finish the monster off. Jinwoo's only concern is the S-rank dungeon break has triggered a wave of other dungeon breaks across Japan. Low-ranking beasts are spreading into cities, and evacuation and suppression efforts must be conducted simultaneously. By the 7th night, the cities are left in ruins. Jinwoo and Jinho walk through the rubble. Jinho comments that everything looks like a wasteland. Suddenly, a female voice calls out, "Hanakawa," a Japanese S-rank hunter. Jinwoo confirms if any other hunters remain in Tokyo, and she replies that only she's left. Hanakawa updates him on the situation. The full extent of Tokyo's damage can't yet be measured. Giants have spread into surrounding regions. 16 S-rank hunters were deployed, 6 from Japan, 2 from China, 3 from Canada, 2 from India, and 1 each from Russia and the UK, organized into 6 guild teams. 3 S-rank hunters have already died: Yuri Orlov from Russia, Hanzawa Koki from Phantom Guild, and Lucas Hoyle from Canada. The giants have proven more difficult to defeat than even A-rank gate bosses, especially since they move in groups. Jinwoo realizes that if 3 S ranks have fallen, the death toll among A-rank and lower-ranked hunters must be staggering. Hanakawa reveals that a total of 31 giants appeared, one of which even crossed the sea into China. Although they don't have enough manpower to defend all of Japan, most of the giants have already been wiped out, thanks to him. The remaining ones are now being dealt with by the hunters alongside his shadows. Jinwoo calmly replies, "That just leaves one," his gaze fixed on the massive giant looming in front of the gate. As he surveys the ruins, a strange familiarity washes over him. The place reminds him of the Demon Castle. Though the city isn't on fire, the destruction mirrors what he once saw in that dungeon. Was the Demon Castle a hint planted by the system? Jinwoo wonders if this was something the architect intended for him to see. But the architect is long dead, and there's been no contact since. That must mean the architect's physical body was real, and if the Demon Castle foreshadowed this moment, then this battle might be one he was always meant to face. All his training has led to this. He sought strength tirelessly, not to be ruled by overwhelming power, but to control it. With a quiet resolve, Jinwoo finally says, "Now that everyone is here, let's get started." Hanakawa looks around, confused. "But the other hunters haven't arrived yet," she says. "They're already here," Jinwoo replies. The scene cuts to S-rank hunters Tawada and Hoshino. Tawada stabs a giant in the head, then collapses into a seat. She complains that the shadow monsters left the giants barely standing. Hoshino responds, "Well, at least on the bright side, we managed to defeat them, and we're both still alive." Tawada slams her fist in frustration. It feels like all they've been doing is cleanup work while Jinwoo's minions do all the real fighting. Back in Tokyo, Jinwoo's shadow army assembles among the ruins. They march in formation. Standing atop the debris, his elite commanders arrive one by one. Iron, Igris, and Tusk, all kneeling before him. Hanakawa is in awe. She finally understands. When Jinwoo said everyone, he meant his shadows. Tank, Jima, and many others gather and kneel before their master. Finally, a powerful shockwave erupts as Beru descends from the sky, landing with a boom. He kneels before Jinwoo and thanks him. Jinwoo nods and commends them. "Good work." Beru responds and thanks his master for the compliment. He then turns to Jinho and tells him to take Hanakawa to safety. They quickly retreat. Jinwoo then utters the word, "Arise." From the ruins, more shadow giants rise from the corpses. Above them, a swarm of shadow ants fills the sky, ready for battle. The chapter ended as he stretches out his hand and issues the final command. "All soldiers." He points toward the S-rank gate and shouts, "Charge." The chapter begins with Beru throwing his head back and unleashing a shrill screech, a signal that he is ready for battle. At that moment, Jinwoo's shadows, including giants, ants, soldiers, and other summoned creatures, charged forward toward the enormous giant standing guard in front of the S-rank gate. Their sheer number made the earth rumble like thunder, sending clouds of dust into the air. As the shadow army closed in on the enemy, Jinwoo observed the scene with a grave expression. Suddenly, the giant let out a deep growl, its glowing red eyes igniting ominously. In a flash, it vanished from sight. Before anyone could react, the giant reappeared, unleashing a massive, sweeping slash. The attack tore through the battlefield, creating a series of explosions and sending countless shadows flying. With just a single strike, the giant effortlessly split Jinwoo's army in half. Stunned by the display of power, Jinwoo mentally acknowledged the terrifying strength of this creature. It had wiped out hundreds of his soldiers in an instant. The sheer size of the giant, combined with the menacing energy it emitted, made even Jinwoo instinctively want to retreat. A deep sense of unease settled in his chest. At that moment, Tusk launched a fireball directly at the giant's face. But Jinwoo, relying on experience, knew that there were only 2 ways to deal with such overwhelming dread: either run from it and forget, or eliminate its source entirely. As the fireball closed in, the giant's attention was drawn to a shadow giant that was simultaneously attacking from another angle. In a chilling show of power, The giant casually caught Tusk's fireball with its left hand and used the other to unleash another devastating slash that cleaved through the shadow giant. Then, countless shadow ants swarmed the giant's foot, attempting to chew through it. But with a single kick, the giant shook them off, sending them flying in all directions. Witnessing this, Beru let out another screech, clearly eager to join the fray. However, Jinwoo raised his hand and ordered him to hold back. Beside him stood Igris, also waiting for the signal. Jinwoo had anticipated this situation. He still had enough mana left and knew he needed to keep attacking until he could find the giant's weakness. Moments later, the giant slammed its enormous fist into the ground, smashing a group of shadows and sending out a shockwave. Jinwoo continued to observe intently, his mana steadily decreasing with each group of shadows that was destroyed. More of Jinwoo's shadows joined the battle, slashing at the giant's body. Jima, one of Jinwoo's warriors, attempted to stab the giant, but it had no effect. The giant retaliated, unleashing another powerful attack that caused a series of explosions, eliminating more shadows and consuming even more of Jinwoo's mana. Jinwoo noted that the giant's body was protected by a dense layer of mana, like armor, which explained why it didn't bother defending itself. It was that confident in its invulnerability. However, Jinwoo remembered that there was one instance when the giant actually blocked an incoming attack. Seizing the opportunity, Jinwoo summoned Kaisel and mounted him alongside Igris. The next moment, they charged toward the giant. Beru also took flight, launching himself toward the enemy's face. The giant swiftly dodged Beru's strike. Then Igris, still riding Kaisel, raised the Demon King's longsword. A streak of lightning surged along its blade as he released a slash toward the giant's face. But the giant leaned back, avoiding the attack, which instead crashed into a nearby building, creating a powerful explosion. Seeing this, Jinwoo thought to himself, just as I suspected. Suddenly, the giant launched a massive slash directly at Jinwoo and his group. It landed with a thunderous cracking sound. But to the giant's surprise, Igris had already dashed in close, his sword crackling with lightning as he struck at its face. The giant managed to block the attack with its hand, and smoke billowed from the impact. As the smoke cleared, Jinwoo appeared right in front of the giant's face, his stealth skill having masked his approach. He slashed directly into one of the giant's eyes, eliciting a roar of pain. A satisfied grin formed on Jinwoo's face. I knew it, he thought. That's its weakness. Beru followed up quickly, his razor-sharp claws aimed at the giant's injured eye. The giant couldn't react in time and was clearly caught off guard by the flurry of attacks. Jinwoo then activated Commander's authority, holding a dagger in each hand. With 3 more floating around him, a powerful purple aura erupted from his body. Watching from afar, Hanakawa commented that the battle looked nothing like a fight between hunters and monsters. It was monsters versus monsters. The thunder of explosions and tremors filled the air. Jinho smiled proudly as he witnessed his guild master and his shadows fighting with everything they had. The scene returned to the battlefield and the giant howled in agony, its face now covered in slashes, especially around its eyes, the result of the combined efforts of Jinwoo, Beru, and Igris. Jinwoo, now at a distance, readied himself again. Daggers floated around him, still under the influence of his commander's authority. Then he charged forward and activated his mutilation skill, unleashing a barrage of slashes aimed directly at the giant's wounded eye, causing blood to splatter. Beru, Jinwoo shouted. Beru instantly dove in. Your wish is my command, he roared, piercing the giant's eye with deadly precision. Jinwoo continued his relentless assault, using mutilation repeatedly while Beru followed up with his slashes. Blood gushed from the giant's mouth due to the overwhelming combined power of the two. Finally, the giant fell. The system message flashed in front of Jinwoo. You have defeated the enemy. The chapter begins with Jinwoo having just defeated the colossal giant. A notification pops up in his system, not only confirming the kill, but also indicating that he has leveled up. Standing atop a building, Jinwoo reflects on the message. You have defeated the enemy. He wonders why the system didn't say, you have defeated the dungeon boss. Down below, Jinho calls out to him. Jinwoo descends from the building, and Jinho rushes over, still in awe. That was amazing. I can't believe you actually took down the boss of the giants, he exclaims. Despite the praise, Jinwoo can't shake off a lingering doubt. The message didn't specify that he defeated the dungeon boss, which means the raid might not be over. Additionally, no black smoke emerged from the giant's body, a sign that shadow extraction wouldn't work. He tries anyway, but as expected, the system notifies him that shadow extraction cannot be used on the target. Suddenly, Jinwoo's gaze sharpens toward the giant's body. He raises his right hand to signal Jinho to stay alert and draws a dagger with his left. But it turns out to be just Beru, emerging from the giant's mouth and bowing respectfully. Jinwoo realizes that, despite the giant's death, there was still enough mana in the area to mask Beru's presence. Then, the atmosphere subtly shifts. The air vibrates, followed by a powerful mana wave erupting from the S-rank gate, startling Jinwoo. A gust of wind, strong enough to uproot trees, blasts through in an instant. Realizing this is no ordinary wind, but a mana storm, Jinwoo immediately worries about Jinho's safety. Fortunately, Igris steps in, shielding Jinho from being blown away. Jinwoo turns his attention back to the fallen giant and notices something alarming. The gate is absorbing the giant's mana. Even more concerning, he feels a small cut form on his face, caused by mana alone, something he's never experienced before. Deciding to investigate, Jinwoo informs Jinho that he'll scout inside the gate. Jinho nods, urging him to be careful. Jinwoo dashes toward the S-rank gate, leaps high, and enters. What he sees inside stuns him. The space beyond the gate is enormous, so vast that it seems the very word huge was created just to describe it. He walks through an endlessly wide and high passageway, realizing this must be how the giants were able to pass through. Suddenly, Beru speaks, asking if Jinwoo heard it too. Jinwoo nods. In the distance, a masculine laugh echoes through the cavern, deep and sincere, as if the one laughing is truly delighted. He's laughing, even knowing someone has intruded here? Jinwoo thinks. Interesting. He tells Beru, let's go. Without hesitation, Jinwoo and Beru head toward the source of the voice. A deep voice rings out, amused. You contemptible ruler. See for yourselves who has come forth to meet me. Then, it turns toward Jinwoo. Welcome, Monarch. What they see is a man shackled in black chains from the neck down. He's not just bound. Several chains pierce through his body, tethering him to the dungeon wall. The sight is horrifying, and Jinwoo wonders what unspeakable crime this man could have committed to deserve such punishment. The chained man speaks, asking Jinwoo to release him, claiming he knows the ruler's plans and must inform the other monarchs. Then, after a pause, he stares at Jinwoo and says, You're not the one I know. Jinwoo asks whether it was the rulers or whoever they are who did this to him. The man replies that the rulers are using him as a stepping stone to lay the foundation for the coming war. In his thoughts, Jinwoo notes that while he has attempted conversations with intelligent magical beasts before, none have ever explained their origins like this one. He asks again, who exactly are these rulers? The man answers that the rulers are the ancient enemies of the monarchs. Jinwoo quickly deduces that if the rulers are his enemies, and this man is their enemy, then they may have a common goal. He asks, then the fact that you're chained here means? The man confirms, yes, I am also a monarch. The chained monarch warns Jinwoo that both rulers and monarchs will likely come after him. For now, he doesn't stand a chance against them and will need allies to fight back. He then offers to help Jinwoo if Jinwoo breaks the seal. Jinwoo responds cautiously, doubting that a beast would help a human like him. Do you really expect me to believe that you're offering help? He asks. The man replies, then let me make you believe me. A bluish aura begins to leak from his mouth, catching Jinwoo off guard. The man begins to chant in a strange, ancient tongue. Jinwoo prepares to draw his dagger, but just then, a system message appears. The king of the giants, monarch of the beginning, Ligia, has activated the skill Pledge of Trust Exchange. Once accepted, neither the caster nor the acceptor will be able to lie to each other. Jinwoo hesitates for a moment, weighing the risk, before finally selecting accept. The system confirms the contract has begun, and the two parties cannot lie until both agree to terminate it. The monarch, now bound by truth, repeats his request. Release me from this seal, and I will help you. Jinwoo answers, all right, I'll trust. Before he can finish his sentence, he feels something tighten around his neck. The man smiles. The pledge is working. Now neither of us can lie. Jinwoo acknowledges this, but changes the subject, curious how the monarch can speak so fluently. He asks how the man can converse with him freely, unlike the other beasts from the gates. The monarch seems confused. What beast? Jinwoo clarifies that he means the magic beasts that emerge from the gates. The man replies, you mean the residents of chaos? He then asks Jinwoo how he could place those mindless creatures on the same level as a monarch. Those beasts are mere stragglers, soldiers who were captured by the rulers after defeat. They've been imprisoned for so long that their sense of self has shattered. But unlike them, the chained man continues, I am a king. I have kept my sanity, patiently waiting for my chance to escape. He looks at Jinwoo. And now here you are. Jinwoo then asks, the ruler's army, are they the ones clad in silver armor with wings on their backs? Recalling the image shown to him by the architect, the monarch confirms, yes, those are the soldiers of the rulers. The chapter ends with Jinwoo muttering a question. Then, why do those damn rulers keep sending beasts after us? Before we wrap up this arc, if you enjoyed the video, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Thank you. The chapter opens with the chained monarch of the beginning, Ligia, responding to Jinwoo's question about why the rulers have been sending beasts to Earth. As he explained, the rulers were preparing for war, intending to turn Earth into a battlefield where they could once again confront the monarchs. Jinwoo, still confused, asked how exactly sending beasts helps in preparing a battlefield. Ligia answered that the purpose was simple, to imbue the world with mana. Jinwoo's eyes lit up in shock upon hearing this. In his mind, he recalled how magic beasts emerging from gates were seen as a curse, while the mana that came with them was considered a blessing, not just by hunters, but by ordinary people as well. Mana crystals and essence stones, derived from these beasts, had become the world's greatest source of energy. He realized the rulers had been laying the groundwork for war. Ligia added that there was no better way to propagate power that previously didn't exist than to spill the blood of beings who possessed it. That's why the rulers decided to use prisoners of war, beasts, as tools. As a result, the density of mana in the world had been steadily growing every day. One could say they had cultivated a field fertilized with the blood of magic beasts, now ready to reap the fruits of their labor. Furthermore, Ligia said mana strengthens the world itself. The ruler's goal was to create a world that could withstand the destructive shockwaves of the coming war. Jinwoo then asked, "What war are you talking about?" Ligia replied, "The rematch between the monarchs and the rulers." He warned that when it happens, the world would be transformed into a living hell. The monarch added that there was no time left. Now that they had met, both sides, the monarchs and the rulers, would no longer sit idly by. In fact, the ruler's envoys may already be on the move. Jinwoo replied, "You talk like those bastards are out to get me." Then he questioned, "Why is that?" Ligia stared at him and said Jinwoo truly knew nothing. The power he possessed wasn't originally his. The fact that this power had been passed on to him meant its original owner had betrayed the monarchs. And that betrayal made Jinwoo an enemy of both monarchs and rulers. Still, Ligia offered to fight by Jinwoo's side. He pleaded once more, asking Jinwoo to release him. Jinwoo stared silently at Ligia and replied, "If all you want is to stand with me, wouldn't it be better if you became one of my shadow soldiers?" As he said this, half of Jinwoo's face seems to transformed, one eye glowing with the Shadow Monarch's power. Ligia was stunned. For a moment, he seemed to see something else, something terrifying. Ligia quickly shook his head and responded, "The bodies of monarchs and rulers are astral. They are destroyed upon death. That's why I cannot become your shadow." Then he asked, "Have I given you enough reason to help me?" In his thoughts, Jinwoo now understood the situation, but something still made him uneasy. It felt like he was overlooking something. He summoned a dagger into his hand and began slowly walking toward Ligia. The chained monarch repeated his request, asking Jinwoo to release him. As Jinwoo approached, he asked again, "Will you stand on my side?" Ligia firmly answered, "Yes, of course. If you help me, I'll return the favor." A fair and complete deal between two monarchs. With a swift motion, Jinwoo slashed through the massive chain binding one of Ligia's arms. The monarch looked at his freed arm, still shaken. Jinwoo then grabbed Ligia's other arm. He asked a final question. Will you stand with humanity? This time, Ligia didn't answer. Jinwoo wondered and asked, why won't you speak? Is it because of the pledge of trust? Still, Ligia remained silent. That's when Jinwoo noticed the large essence stone embedded at the back of Ligia's neck. He muttered, so as long as that stone exists, the rulers can hear everything. Are they ordering you to kill humans, like the beasts? Suddenly, Ligia's eyes filled with rage. He clenched his freed fist and swung it at Jinwoo, but Jinwoo anticipated the attack and easily dodged it. The deal's off, Jinwoo said coldly. I can't let you live. You're too dangerous. He thrust his dagger into Ligia's chest, causing the chained monarch to grunt in pain. You might bring calamity, Jinwoo stated. Ligia, blood trickling from his mouth, glared back and muttered, you're wrong. I'm not the calamity. You are. Jinwoo released another slash, and Ligia screamed. The monarch tried to retaliate, but Jinwoo easily evaded the attacks, launching more slashes in rapid succession. Blood poured from Ligia's wounds. Desperately, Ligia lunged again, but Jinwoo sidestepped, then countered with a storm of deadly stabs that caused Ligia to cough up even more blood. Eventually, the monarch of the beginning collapsed to his knees. With his last breath, he spoke. As the battle between humanity and the captured residents of chaos escalates, this world will become a bloody battlefield. I pray that those you wish to protect will burn to ashes in the hellfire of war. Jinwoo narrowed his eyes and answered, that's not going to happen. And with a final, powerful slash, Jinwoo severed Ligia's head. A system message popped up. You have defeated the dungeon boss. You have defeated one of the 9 monarchs, the monarch of the beginning, Ligia. As Jinwoo turned to leave, Ligia's head rolled across the floor. Another notification appeared. He had earned a massive amount of experience, and the system began calculating it. Jinwoo looked down at the essence stone he had acquired and muttered, too bad I can't turn him into a shadow soldier. He then gripped the stone. Still, this essence will make a fine prize. His level rapidly increased. After the final tally, he had reached level 122. Meanwhile, Ligia's body slowly began to disintegrate. The scene shifts to a luxurious mansion in the United States. A helicopter lands, and 2 individuals step out and proceeds to the entrance of the mansion, where a man stands waiting, Christopher Reed, one of the national-level hunters. He greets the visitors, Deputy Director and Ms. Selner. I wasn't expecting guests today, he says. It's been a while. The Deputy Director replies that they have something urgent to discuss, and asks if others can be excused from the room. Christopher quickly agrees and instructs a nearby woman not to allow anyone into his quarters until the visitors leave. She nods and complies. In the next scene, the 3 sit together. Christopher asks, so what brought you all the way out here? Don't tell me it's about that S-rank gate that recently spawned on the East Coast. I'm telling you now, I'm not going. Ms. Selner speaks up. That's not why we're here. The reason is far more serious. Christopher stops. More serious than an S-rank gate? The chapter ends as Ms. Selner tells him, there's a chance you might be killed in the near future. The chapter opens with Ms. Selner delivering a grave warning to national-level hunter Christopher Reed. She tells him there's a high possibility that he may be killed in the near future. Upon hearing this, Christopher's eyes glow and a blue aura begins to radiate from his body. He sets his drinking glass down forcefully on the table and calmly thanks Ms. Selner for all she's done for him. However, he quickly adds in a stern tone that he doesn't believe they're on casual or joking terms. Then, he challenges her. Was she really suggesting someone out there was capable of killing him? Ms. Selner explains that she saw it in a dream. Christopher interrupts her sharply, saying, now look here, Ms. Selner. But she continues, telling him she saw him surrounded by men. Before she could finish, Christopher snaps, visibly irritated, and questions if they came all this way just to talk about some silly dream. He reminds her of her previous profession, how some believe she gained a unique ability after awakening, but he attributes it to her being a former psychic. Ms. Selner is momentarily speechless as a faint green glow appears in her eyes. Christopher continues, asserting that he is a national-level hunter, someone no ordinary person could kill. Still, Ms. Selner insists her vision was clear. Christopher, now more agitated, tells her not to bring up that damn dream again. But then, in a more sarcastic tone, He says, "Fine. Let's say I do believe you. Who would I ask for help then?" He mocks the idea further, questioning whether there's even another national-level hunter out there who could protect someone like him. But Ms. Selner calmly responds, "There might be someone capable, Sung Jinwoo." She explains that Jinwoo's level and capabilities are enough to provide the protection Christopher needs. Hearing this, Christopher freezes in surprise. The scene then shifts to Japan. Jinwoo is seen emerging from a dungeon gate. As he reflects, he recalls having to kill Ligia. Though Ligia was shackled in special chains, Jinwoo still felt the overwhelming power radiating from him. Jinwoo believes he made the right decision. Releasing Ligia into the outside world could have ended disastrously. Holding the Essence Stone in his hand, Jinwoo silently acknowledges that he must continue to grow stronger. News of the giant's defeat quickly spreads across the globe. Social media explodes with posts about the emergence of a new national-level hunter. Unlike during the Jeju Island raid, it's not just Koreans talking this time. The whole world is paying attention. In China, a giant managed to cross the sea but was swiftly taken down by Ligia gang. The scene shows him sitting atop the defeated giant with his twin swords stabbed into the monster's corpse. Meanwhile, in Japan, Chairman Matsumoto of the Japanese Hunters Association surrenders himself to the authorities. Whether it was out of guilt or responsibility remains uncertain. Across the world, in the U.S. state of Maryland, the government organizes a party to celebrate a successful S-rank raid completed by American hunters. Two hunters chat casually. One comments that because it was an S-rank gate, the government spared no expense. The other agrees, saying the raid wasn't even that difficult. Suddenly, a large man approaches. Their conversation comes to a halt. The man is revealed to be Thomas Andre. He reminds them of a bet they once made about Sung Jinwoo. One owes him a yacht, and another a house. He turns to the third man, unable to recall what he wagered. The man replies that he didn't place a bet. Thomas grins and compliments the man's expensive-looking tie, saying he likes it, even though the man insists again that he didn't make a bet. Despite this, Thomas takes the tie anyway and asks a nearby woman if it suits him. She replies that while it looks expensive, it doesn't match his Hawaiian shirt. Upon hearing this, Thomas removes the tie and tosses it aside. The conversation then turns serious. The woman informs Thomas that the list of invited guilds for the upcoming International Guild Conference has been released, and the Ajin Guild from South Korea is on it. Thomas is surprised, and the woman confirms that it's the guild founded by Sung Jinwoo. Thomas grins, adjusts his glasses, and, with a yellow glow in his eyes, says, "Well, I guess he'll be coming to the States then." Back in Japan, Jinwoo stands surrounded by the shadows of the giants he defeated. Someone behind him comments, "Incredible." Jinwoo responds, "Too bad one of them crossed the ocean. Still, I managed to improve my strength." Onlookers are awestruck by what they've witnessed. Some question if this truly is Sung Jinwoo's ability. Meanwhile, Jinho looks proudly at the amazed crowd, thinking this must be their first time witnessing Jinwoo's power in person. Ms. Hanakawa approaches Jinho and hands him a phone. He assumes the call is for Jinwoo, but she corrects him. It's for him. Jinho answers and is immediately stunned by what he hears. He quickly apologizes to Jinwoo and says he must return to Korea due to a family emergency. Jinwoo asks what happened, but Jinho says he doesn't know yet, only that he was urgently told to return. Soon, Jinho boards a helicopter, escorted by Hanakawa. As they lift off, Jinho recalls the shaky voice of his mother on the phone. He wonders what could have happened, but reassures himself that it might not be too serious. The scene shifts to Incheon International Airport in South Korea. Jinho is picked up by his father's assistant, who informs him a car is waiting. The assistant tells Jinho to stay strong and that he'll explain everything on the way. Jinho grows increasingly anxious. At the hospital, Jinho learns the devastating news. His father, Chairman Yu Myung-han, has fallen into an eternal slumber. Jinho rushes, but the assistant stops him, explaining that being near a hunter who cannot control their mana might worsen the chairman's condition. Jinho stops, then mutters to himself that perhaps he'll never be anything more than a useless son. The assistant then hands him a notebook, something the chairman had been working on before losing consciousness. He had kept it just in case the chairman woke up, but now believes Jinho needs it more. As Jinho opens the book, he's overwhelmed with emotion. Inside are countless newspaper clippings and articles about Jinho's accomplishments. Through tears, Jinho notes how people say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It turns out his father had a habit just like his, to collect and scrapbook things he cherished. The assistant explains that the chairman had saved everything related to his children: tournament results, exhibitions, competitions, and most recently, Jinho's achievements. As tears fall onto the scrapbook, the assistant adds that the chairman didn't neglect him. He simply had high expectations because he loved him deeply. The assistant then suggests they return home. As they walk away, Jinho suddenly feels a tap on the back of his neck. He turns around, startled, but no one is there. The assistant asks if something's wrong, but Jinho brushes it off. Just then, Jinwoo begins to materialize behind him with a smile and says, "What's with the waterworks, Jinho? You're breaking my heart." Inside the hospital room, Jinwoo opens a bottle of the holy water of life and approaches the unconscious chairman. Meanwhile, outside, a woman, Jinhee, Jinho's older sister, arrives at the hospital. As she walks in, she notices a man in black long sleeves leaving the hospital. Back in the room, Chairman Yu suddenly wakes and softly says, "Jinhee." She rushes to his bedside, tears in her eyes, and embraces him tightly, calling out, "Dad." The chairman is confused, wondering if she means he has truly awakened from eternal slumber. The doctors are stunned. No one has ever recovered from such a state. One of them remarks that once the media hears of this, it will become a sensation. Outside the hospital, Jinwoo stands silently, watching from a distance. He smiles and turns away, saying, "It's a bit early, but happy birthday, Jinho." This chapter concludes the Japan Crisis arc and sets the stage for the next, the International Guild Conference arc. Jinwoo is invited to America to represent South Korea at the prestigious Global Summit of Elite Guilds. But as the world begins to recognize his power, an ancient threat stirs. The Monarchs, sworn enemies of the rulers, begin their long-awaited rematch by targeting the rulers' vessels, starting with Christopher Reed.